You have memories from kindergarten, maybe even your third birthday. But for the first 2 or 3 years of your life, there's almost nothing. Those years were some of the most important you'll ever live. You learned your first language, recognized your parents, took your first steps, and built the foundation of your personality. Yet if someone asked you to describe even a single ordinary afternoon from that time, you couldn't. Most people think the explanation is simple. Babies just don't have good memories. But that's not what neuroscience has found. In fact, your infant brain was doing the exact opposite. It was creating memories faster than your brain ever will again. So if those memories existed, where did they go? For over a century, psychologists have called this mystery infantile amnesia. Almost every human experiences it, no matter where you were born, what language you speak, or how intelligent you are. The beginning of your life has been locked away behind an invisible wall. The strange part isn't that you forgot. It's that your brain spent those years learning at an unbelievable speed. Think about what a 1-year-old accomplishes. Without reading a book, without attending school, without understanding a single scientific principle, a baby learns to recognize hundreds of faces, distinguish thousands of sounds, understand emotions, crawl, walk, and slowly decode one of the most complicated systems ever created, human language. Every single day, millions of new neural connections are forming inside the brain. If memory depends on learning, then those years should contain more memories than any other period of life. Instead, they're almost completely empty. For decades, scientists believed the answer was simply that a baby's hippocampus, the region responsible for forming long-term memories, wasn't fully developed. It sounded reasonable. After all, if the brain hasn't finished growing, maybe it simply can't store experiences. Except modern neuroscience uncovered something that completely changed the story. Researchers studying infant brains discovered that babies aren't failing to create memories. They're creating too many. During the first years of life, the hippocampus produces new neurons at an astonishing rate. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself, building new pathways while removing old ones almost every single day. Imagine trying to write your life story inside a notebook while someone keeps replacing the pages underneath your pen. The information isn't disappearing because it was never written. It's disappearing because the notebook itself keeps changing. And that's where the mystery becomes even stranger. Because those lost memories may not actually be gone. They may still be shaping every decision you make without you ever realizing they're there. Scientists began testing this idea in laboratory mice. The results were surprising. Young mice learned how to navigate mazes and recognize objects just as well as adults. But only weeks later, they behaved as if those experiences had never happened. At first, researchers assumed the memories had vanished. Then they tried something different. Using light-sensitive neurons, they artificially reactivated the exact brain cells that stored those early memories. The memories came back. The information had never been erased. It had simply become inaccessible. Human brains are far more complex than a mouse's, but many neuroscientists now believe something similar may happen to us. Your earliest experiences may still exist deep within your brain, not as stories you can replay, but as invisible patterns that continue to influence how you think, feel, and react. Think about how a familiar smell can suddenly make you feel safe, or why certain places feel strangely comforting even when you can't explain why. Not every memory exists as a picture in your mind. Some exist as emotional blueprints. Before you ever formed your first conscious memory, your brain was already learning who to trust, what felt dangerous, how to recognize voices, and how the world responded to your needs. Those lessons became part of you, not because you remember them, but because your brain does. And there's another reason those years disappear. As children grow, they don't simply add memories. They rebuild the system that stores them. Language changes the way experiences are organized. A toddler begins thinking in words instead of sensations. Their sense of self slowly emerges. Only then can memories be connected into a personal story with a beginning, middle, and end. Before that happens, experiences are real, but they don't yet belong to someone who can say, I remember. In a way, the person living those first years wasn't the same version of you that's listening to this now. Your earliest self built the foundation. Your later self inherited it. That's why your first years can feel completely empty while still shaping everything that followed. The strange truth is that forgetting may not be a flaw at all. A brain that never reorganized itself might struggle to learn new skills, adapt to change, or build the flexible mind that adulthood requires. Losing access to those first memories may be the price we pay for becoming lifelong learners. So the beginning of your life isn't really missing. It's hidden. Every word you speak, every relationship you build, every fear you overcome, and every habit you carry started during years you'll probably never remember. Not because they weren't important, but because they were too important for your rapidly changing brain to preserve in a form you could one day replay. The first chapter of your life was never deleted. It became the pages that every later chapter was written on.